Hi there, my name is Danny Henderson. Welcome to my beautiful channel. Today is going to be so fun because today you are going to see some of the Galactic Dudes. The Galactic Dudes is a beautiful group set up by my friend Tina. We call her Disco Tina. And it is to bring men together in a group to share their stories, to share their lives, to share their beingness. A group where men can come, where they're not going to be judged or ridiculed or mocked or ignored. A group where men can come and be themselves and know that whatever they share is going to be sacred, safe, and respected. So we're going to start first with this lovely group of men. We're going to go around and have each one of them introduce themselves. We're going to start with Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Danny.
So who you be, where you from, and why are you in the group?
Aaron Hilliard. I'm from Kennesaw, Georgia, at least for the next 14 days. And came to GSIC, met Tina. She saw my TikTok channel, invited me to the Galactic Dudes. That's how I ended up there.
That's perfect. All right, we'll come back to you for more shortly. Okay, next, let's go to Joshua.
Hi, I'm Joshua. I guess I joined the Galactic Dudes from the Consciousness War, and I just kind of stayed mostly with the Galactic Dudes since, mostly to spread truth and awareness.
Okay, truth and awareness of what?
Pretty much truth and awareness of the extraterrestrial happenings, and I guess many of the hidden technologies, as I put out a lot of patents. I share a lot of the hidden patents.
Perfect. Thank you, Joshua. Okay, Dakota Franson, here you have your own channel. I'll just name it before we go any further. Dakota Franson has his own channel with a guy called Chris. Love Chris. It's called Bald and Bonkers. Bald and Bonkers on YouTube. Dakota, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks for the introduction. Just listen to my stories for more than 5 minutes. You'll figure out why Bald and Bonkers always rings true. I joined the Galactic Dudes simply because I've been kind of floating the Galactic Spiritual Informers, group for a little bit now, and figured to see what the heck all the fuss was about. And honestly, glad to be here, and I'm excited for October.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, let's go to Chen. Hello.
Hi, Danny. I'm Ju. Thank you for having me. I started. I'm in the Galactic Dudes because in 2021 I stumbled upon a video of an interview of an Area 51 whistleblower named Stephen Chua, and it kind of blew me away that he's from Singapore, my neck of the woods. And if anyone from Singapore would tell you that we hardly ever, no one ever hears about us. We're a really small country. So anyway, that led me down like a huge rabbit hole. I discovered Elena Danan's all her material, and it just really resonated with me. And I ended up in one of, I think it was the Consciousness War, and then I went to GSIC last year, and that's led me to joining the Galactic Dudes at some point. I think Tina sent an invitation, and here I am.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you for mentioning our beloved, now departed super soldier brother, Stephen Chua. Those of you that don't know, he departed due to nefarious activities in the military. We send our love to Stephen Chua and his family. Thank you for being here, Chen. Patrick, over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Danny. My name is Patrick. I'm from the Netherlands. I live in the north of the country, but today I'm in Amsterdam, the capital. And so last year I went to GSIC and I met your lovely self. I met Tina and many other lovely people. And so I wasn't even aware there was like a community or Telegram groups. so Tina added me, and since then I'm a part of the Galactic Dudes, and proud of it. So yeah, happy about it.
That's so lovely. So lovely. For those watching that may never have heard and don't know what Galactic Dudes are, what the GISIC is a short version, abbreviation of the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection. And it was an incredible conference that most of us attended last year. And it was for people that have actually experienced contactee, abductee, experiences with our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters. And it was to tell the truth of your planet, planet Earth, planet Terra, planet Ki, as I like to call her, Pachamama, planet Gaia. It doesn't really matter. This is a space that we all inhabit, and within that are the real truths that have been hidden from us for millennia by the people that don't want you to know how beautiful, how amazing, how incredible you are. And again, that's what we serve to do here, is each of these people have had their own beautiful experiences, but due to our programming from birth, we're often called crazy, mad, bonkers. Well, we're going to ignore that because we don't subscribe to it clearly, and we will speak out, and we will say whatever we want to, and we will tell the truths of our lives, and we won't be stopped. It's as simple as that. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to come straight to Aaron there in Georgia, and he's going to share with you one of his spiritual ET encounters. Over to you, Aaron.
Thank you. Well, it's going to be a little different than an ET encounter, but it's happening right now, and it just feels important. It helps to understand that I've been a polygraph examiner for 20 years, lie detector tests. And so I've developed a pretty good BS detector within me. And basically, I tend to see the parts in people that they don't see, their unconscious belief systems, their shadows, a lot of people call them. And that's kind of the work I've been doing on the side. But what's happened in the last year, I went to a couple of QHHT sessions, and what's been happening is there's this thing in my life called my black hole, because it's just, I know something big's there, but I've never gotten memories, and I've been asking for memories for a while. In the last QHHT session, I got confirmation that it's some sort of soul splitting that happened, and that there is a part of me that, had another existence. The memories are not ready to come back. I've been simply told multiple times it's not ready for that, because it's really traumatic. But I've been emotionally processing the trauma without the memory, as my real gifting is as an emotional bandwidth, and understanding how the thought processes, the emotional system, and the belief system all work together, and how that is. So with that last session, I also got a kind of a message from my Galactic Council support team here that they have my back, they haven't abandoned me, and I'll get the memories eventually. But they confirmed the soul splitting. And then 2 days later, I got the mission, and that was to go to Mount Shasta. And it was such a strong mission that on July 7th, I made the decision, I'm closing my business, I'm selling everything or giving away everything I have. I'm packing up in my car, and I'm going to be trekking across the United States on a kind of a multiple deal going on for about the next 6 months, ultimately to end up in Mount Shasta, and kind of going to get whatever the next step is from there.
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. That's so brave as well. It's so brave to follow your heart. Yeah, follow your spirit. Oh my goodness. Do you know which part of Shasta you will settle in?
No, the funny thing is, I know I'm supposed to find and meet the guy from GSIC last year. Was it Lowell? I don't remember his name.
Hmm.
Anyway, part of it is going there. I think it's going to be about the beings that he photographed and Telos and anyway, I don't know yet. I don't know.
Okay, brilliant. I have his email address. I can easily pass that to you. So you.
Yeah, I'd ask Tina for it, but she's so busy she hadn't quite sent it to me yet, so I'll take it.
Excellent, excellent. All right, great. So we'll come back to you again in a minute. Let's go to who hasn't spoken yet? Has everybody introduced themselves? Yes. Now we're doing the round of where you're giving us. I know that we're just aware that you have a short time span, Aaron. So I want to make sure that we give you enough time. All right, Dakota, can you share one of your galactic experiences with us, please?
Oh, hard to pick, but basically my situation is that for some reason throughout most of my life, there's been a number of beings that have showed up to physically help me and as others around me that have been affected by more nefarious things going on spiritually, possibly even military side of it. As it turns out, I apparently have a wife and 3 children upstairs that have visited multiple people. It's become so common of a visitation where just hanging around me for too long will expose you to something. And that's about the shortest I know how to put it.
But that's a good thing, right? I know you mentioned that your partner, Chris, on your YouTube channel, Bald and Bonkers, has actually witnessed seeing one of your beloveds from upstairs. Can you give us a little bit of detail on that?
It was February 2021. There was a group that Chris and I met through. It was meant to legitimize paranormal research. Turned out later on that it was a fraud, but we got to talking about this certain entity that has been known to wear what looks like a fedora hat and wear a long trench coat. I started talking about a theory about where it may have come from, being that all of a sudden people who were watching, because it was a live stream that this all took place on, shadow beings started popping up all over the place. There was weird voices, growls. Then it started to where one of our members at the time started coughing up blood. Another felt like they were being choked, and you could physically see what looked like burn marks forming around their neck. It was a scary situation, and shortly afterwards, people who got affected the most all of a sudden started all talking about seeing this little girl pop up out of nowhere. Blonde hair, big blue eyes. Some of them had the impression that she may have some Pleiadian origin. Well, that happened to match the description of a young girl that saved my life years prior. So I showed them some photos because I have an uncle on my mom's side. We get mistaken for each other all the time. His kids call me dad. We're so alike. So I show him a picture of his 2 twin girls who easily could pass off as my daughters. Every single one of them started freaking out, asking how the heck I managed to get that photo. Then I explained to them the backstory. There was one woman who got affected so much she actually had to seek mental health help. She said she knew the story. She got a hold of me one day, said, "Dakota, I think I just saw your daughter." Showed her the picture. Make a long story short, at least 20 people, including Chris, who all have been affected by this being in some way or another, have come forward saying, "We've seen you, we've seen your family." That's also how I ended up finding out that I have another son and daughter there, and was physically taken to go see them shortly after the birth.
Wow, that's a lot. You know, it could go so many different ways here, but there are people that have come, have left family upstairs, have reincarnated here to be here at this time for many, many different reasons. And there are some of us on the ground here who are working directly with, you know, real life, true beings that are mostly at this point military based, the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And there is a lot of people in your situation, Dakota. I mean, I don't believe it's millions. But certainly it's great that we have somebody like you sitting and sharing a reality that you have experienced. And again, you are so safe in this group because nobody here is going to judge you. You have proof, you have evidence, you have done many broadcasts on this, and this is what we're looking for. I had a guy, just to give you a highlight before we come to Patrick, I had a guy email me yesterday, bless him, and he said, "Hello, Danny. I love your work. I am the king of the universe, literally. And you need to interview me, and you need to run a conference for me, and all the beings will come." And I'm like, "Oh, bless, bye-bye." You know, because there's just some people have got into the habit since the spiritual movement, like the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, which has been hijacked. And just some people are just stuck in fantasy. And so part of what you guys do together is you're allowing yourself to like take apart what's reality, what's illusion, what's my imagination, was I there, was it a dream? And it's really important to do our own self inquiry in these ways. So thank you, Dakota, for sharing. I know we don't have all the time in the world. It would just take 4 hours, Dakota, just to sit with you alone, never mind the other beautiful men that we have here. So thank you. Okay, Patrick, share with us a story that we can understand.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, you know, in my life, I've experienced, you know, many things. And so I'll pick maybe one cool story and one or two scary stuff, not too long. But so the cool thing was probably around 1994. I was traveling around Europe by train, and I was in Italy in the train station, and all of a sudden I saw a group of what looked like cloned people, cloned like little grays, but more human-like. I was like, these guys are not human. And so I saw them pass. They were like workers, and they all looked the same. It was like, I don't know, something really odd. So that stayed with me, you know, since, what is it, 30 years. So that was like a cool thing. And so, you know, for the more scary stuff, so I'm not normally scared of things. You know, fear is not a part of my vocabulary. I'm attacked constantly, like, you know, like most of us. But one incident was in the island of La Gomera, which is the Canary Islands. I was visiting. You've been there?
I've been there. I love La Gomera. That is a special place.
I love La Gomera, but one night there was such a dark entity, like an ancient black, you know, and came over me and over the bed. And, you know, that was probably the only time in my life that I was really scared, like what the, you know, actual, you know, what's going on. So making lots of, you know, whatever, calls, prayers, and it went away. And later I heard from a friend that she'd been to La Gomera, and she fled off the island because of this darkness. And she said, okay, I had to take a flight home because, so that was pretty scary. And I had something similar in another island in Spain, in Mallorca, where I worked in tourism for a few years. And there I was also visited by like a suicide entity. And that was really nasty as well, because that's not part of my vocabulary either, like, you know, suicide or whatever. And all of a sudden I just had the urge, okay, just jump off the bridge. And it's so strong, like, okay, I had to fight with all of my might to, you know, to clear that. So that, and, you know, I've been part of another spiritual community, and I've witnessed exorcisms and people going insane, actually, you know. So one guy had to be committed to a mental asylum after, you know, so, you know, and there's many stories like that, but I think those are the highlights probably for now.
Gosh, Patrick, that's incredible. It's so lovely to meet someone who's also been to other parts of the world and other islands.
Yeah.
So La Gomera, for those that don't know, I went to Tenerife with I just met my now ex-husband. I just met my ex-husband. It was like our first holiday together. And we went to Tenerife, and our hotel room was so appalling. I mean, there were still rats sleeping in the bed. They hadn't even got up yet and brushed their teeth or anything. And I'm like, I am not staying here. So we stayed up all night. And then we got a ferry across to this pristine island, like pristine. This is like in 97 or 8, I don't know, that time. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful ancient mountain. You could still see where the ancients had, you know, fertiled the land on the mountain. And it was really, really special there. But there were, and I felt as well, like really deeply dark, ancient land guardians. And we hear about these on the Big Island in Hawaii, but we don't often hear about them in La Gomera. So thank you for raising that for people to have. Go ahead.
One thing about Tenerife, though, before, you know, so, you know, I lived and worked on Tenerife for a while, for 1 year, and I could definitely feel it had been a part of Atlantis, because when I walked across the island, I could see with my third eye, I could see where the temples, you know, at a certain place really clearly, okay, here, there was a temple here, And that was really cool to feel, okay, this was part of Atlantis, definitely. Oh.
Amazing. And also Tenerife, there are areas there that people have filmed because it looks like a moonscape in Tenerife. The land mass is very, very unusual there. And then if we jump across to Mallorca, Spanish, off the coast of Spain, a Spanish island, and Mallorca is again an ancient, it's like when you're in the little villages, you're in the Stone Age, not really, it's just so beautiful. And again, lots and lots of interesting energy and a lot of embarrassingly drunk Brits. Sorry about that, world. Anyway, Patrick, thank you. Can't take it anywhere. They're always getting drunk and falling all over themselves and ending up in TV shows. It's
not to mention the dress code, you know, but anyway, so yeah.
Oh my God. Listen, as long as people take care of their toenails, I think flip-flops are all right. If they don't, no flip-flops. Okay, no flip-flops. Anyway, thank you for that. That's great. This is great, opening up the rest of the world for people to think about. Chen, let's come to you for one of your stories.
So I just want to start with a very something that happened quite a long time ago. I was in the Singapore Army at the time, and one of my friends had an encounter, and he was telling me about it, and he was lying. This was we were stationed on an island called Pulau Tekong, which is famously haunted. Now it's well known now and pretty much accepted, but back then not so much. There were just a few rumors. So my friend was sleeping on his actually lying awake on his bed in the bunk that we shared, and at night, and at some point he looked around and saw a greenish apparition, entered the room, walked towards his locker, which was next to his bed, and turned and looked straight at him. And he was understandably, frozen, petrified. And the apparition then quickly left, like it moved towards the wall and disappeared. And the reason why I'm telling this story, I've since had encounters of my own, but this was my first, I would say, like it made me start questioning the reality we live in, because before that I was pretty much indoctrinated in the third density reality, and then also, like, the way he told the story, it just rang true to me, his emotion and the fear in his eyes, and just the fact that he needed to tell it to someone, and he did not want to be by himself that night. It was clear, so he needed to tell someone about it, and that always stayed with me, because I feel when you hear something and it's true, it stays with you. Like this is a conversation that took place over 30 years ago, and I still remember it clear as if it happened yesterday. So that was a milestone in my awakening. And the second one happened a few years later, when I came across a book called Embraced by the Light by Betty Eady, and it introduced me to a lot of things which kind of blew my mind away. one of which was we are all eternal beings. And the other one was that many of us have had lifetimes, not just on Earth, but also in other worlds. And that concept, that was long before I ever heard the term starseed. And yeah, that was a real eye-opener. And well, 25 years later, here I am.
Excellent. Still on your journey, discovering who you be and relating and responding. It's amazing, isn't it, where our very first kind of awakening can come from. And that's what I want to cover in this next round with you guys. I want to ask you just to think for a minute back into all of your childhoods. Now, in childhood, of course, we are programmed by parents, guardians, teachers, vicars, popes, whoever's there. And we're told that this and this and this is real, but we're also told that Santa Claus, Father Christmas is real and the fairies are real. And so it's very confusing as a child until it's 7, you get fully shut down by the adults in general. So I want to come around, I'm going to start with you, Aaron. And if we can remember back to a possible first experience, whether it was an orb, an angel, a feeling, a dream, whatever it was. Again, we want to encourage our other brothers out there to know they have a place of support where they can talk and share their stories with each other. So, Aaron, we're going to come to you.
It's not my first, but it's probably the most impactful thing that really kicked things off was about 4 or 5 years ago, I became very suicidal, and I had decided that if I could not really experience love, that I no longer wanted to be here. And so I went to the mountains and I said, I need to meet something here, meet someone here, or something needs to happen. Otherwise, I can't hang out here anymore. And it did. I basically was kind of in consciousness, taken up several different dimensional levels, colors, and essentially I met Ram Dass and Maharaji. And that's where everything began. It was like an activation point. And my psyche was just blown open, and all of a sudden I became aware of watching myself, of watching my ego. So it was like a new me developed right back here that started watching what's me doing out front, and that just started the whole chain of events that hasn't slowed down till now.
That's incredible. How old were you, and where was it? What mountain?
About 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Really?
Oh, I'm 54. Yeah.
That recently.
Yeah.
There are some people in the world who don't know who Ram Dass or Maharaja is. Can you briefly tell us?
Well, Ram Dass is his Earth name was Richard Alpert, and he was a professor with Timothy Leary at Harvard. And they were the only 2 professors who got kicked out of Harvard for basically giving psychedelics to students. And he went on a pilgrimage after that to India, and that's where he met Maharaji, who was an advanced being. And that was where his awakening, his activation began. And it just sort of carries down the line.
Mm-hmm. And you recognize them because you've studied their work and read their books?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, yeah. I mean, Ram Dass came back. He was given the name Ram Dass and came back to America, and that was kind of his mission, was to bring the teachings that he was getting back to America, and he was very relatable. So he took difficult concepts and made them relatable, and I feel like I have some of the same giftings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're a great communicator. Can you just briefly tell us that when you felt this absolute giving up, surrendering to death and saying, you better do something because I am checking out. And you're an expert in polygraphs, which is fascinating. So you were telling the truth and it was heard and it was received. Were you sitting, standing? What was the mountain you were at? And what did it feel like being taken up? Was it a ship or was it a dimensional energy?
No, it was dimensional. It was my consciousness. All I can say is it lifted up. I was on the mountains. It was in Hiawassee, Georgia. I had rented a cabin specifically just to go away and like figure something out. And so no, it was more like I'm in a deep meditation trance state. and sort of got pulled up. I could feel, I don't know how to explain it except like globe of purple, beautiful purple and blue lights when I was up there. And when you get up there, when you get up there, you can't deny it. It's like it becomes so real that all the other BS just kind of falls away. And even though the event lessens over time, there's just no denying that space existed and that I was spoken to so clearly, because my request was, I want to leave here. And I said, it was like, well, you've got to give up everything to do that. And ultimately I couldn't do that because I have 3 children and I'm not going to be mean to them. But it was that bad. And essentially, that was the experience that kicked it off.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, let me see who wants to go next to share a childhood story. Come on, boys.
I suppose I will. It wasn't really a childhood one, although I do have a childhood one. I'll go with the one that really jump started my spiritual journey. I would say it had to have been a year before Elena started her work. I had gone into a very, very deep meditation. And during this meditation, I had received I guess a symbol of sorts. And so, right, during the meditation, I'm making a mental image of it. And after it, I draw it out. And soon after that, I decide to meditate with that image in mind. And almost once I got into the meditative state, almost immediately was a massive explosion of nothing but pure consciousness. Later, once Elena released her information, she presented that symbol as the Council of 5. It was their group symbol. Let me see if I'll see if I can find it real quick.
Okay. Yeah, that's incredible. The Council of 5. It's now, not many people know this, but it's now the Council of 7. And if it's not been announced, it will be announced, because at the time when the reptilians and the Greys were running the planet with the nefarious leaders in place, there was 5 nations that are the Council of 5 who represent nations off planet who came together to help support. Oh, here we are. I got to.
Yeah.
That's
Better
great.
for that one.
Let me come.
My phone wouldn't work.
Right, Chen. Right, say something so we can get you off, because you're on that one is single screen.
Yeah. So I think this is the one, I believe.
Yeah.
Council of 5.
Yeah.
With the triangle shape.
Let me see if I can find the notebook, because I drew it out and I wrote in my notebook and I had it dated.
That's so great.
I will be right back.
Okay. All right. So Council of 5 now, Council of 7, because now that the extremely horrific, violent extraterrestrials that were here have removed, other nations have come back to realign with the Council of 5 to again support this solar system. And I always smile at myself when I hear these words coming out of my mouth. It's part of my brain, because of the programming that we're given from childbirth till death. It's like, oh my God, Danny, you're talking about the Council of 5 and the Council of 7. It sounds like Star Trek, but it is actually our reality. And this is what, of course, you guys sitting in front of me, you know that, you feel that, and you're fighting the shaming and the stoning and the embarrassment and the accusations and the attacks and the threats that we all get, and moving forward with your own truth, because there's nothing more important than the truth, who we be, who we are, and what we know. Joshua, how are you doing finding that?
I did find it. Hold on just a moment.
So you were in a deep meditation when this image came to you, and you felt an explosion of consciousness. And then when you came out of that trance-like meditative state?
Yeah, at the time, I will say I had no clue what it was. With my limited understanding at the time, I mistook it for a sigil. But yeah, this was it March 23rd of 2020.
Okay, put it back more against you.
There we go.
Right, there we go. Oh, very
That's
good.
what I drew.
Very good. Great.
Oh.
Thank you, Joshua.
There we go.
That's very good. Isn't it nice, Joshua, when we do something and then it gets confirmed by somebody else's work,
Yes.
and then we just know that we're not crazy, crazy green.
Yeah,
and-
it's pretty much my that was my confirmation. Hey, this person is legit.
Excellent, excellent. You're talking about Elena Danan.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Joshua. All right, who else wants to share a childhood visitation impression or experience?
No, I guess I'll go.
Dakota?
So, yeah. So with me, it's kind of hard to pinpoint an exact childhood moment because these things always happen to me, even growing up in somewhat religious communities and Catholic schools. Everybody could tell something was off about Dakota. It wasn't necessarily anything bad. It's just something about me. There's the incident when I was 4 years old where I was taken one night from my mother's house, and then the very next morning, just to kind of get the short version of it, I was found 30 miles away at my grandparents' house. Nobody knew how I got in the house. All the doors, all the windows were locked. Not even the dogs knew I was there. And what set this off is just, maybe, my parents dropping me off while, because they had to go to work they dropped me off while I was in my sleep, was that morning, a few minutes after I got up, I remember distinctly my mother calling on the phone, screaming because she didn't know where I was. And it's not necessarily a situation my father taking me because, he wasn't exactly in the picture. And if it was a parental kidnapping situation, he wouldn't have dropped me off at my mother's parents.
Ooh.
So it became pretty obvious that something happened. I didn't really register that the supernatural was even a thing until I was 9 years old, and I watched a man be hung in the old Idaho State Penitentiary. Naturally, the vision seemed so real. I thought I was watching somebody dying in front of me. I go to scream, help, help, help. Because the rest of the group I was with already started moving on with the rest of the tour. By the time they all get back, the dude's gone, everything's back to normal, and I'm just like, what just happened? Now, naturally, nobody believing me was partially my fault because the second I heard the place was haunted, I used it to scare the crap out of the girls in my class. So partially my fault on that one. But that was kind of the incident that kind of set the stubbornness in me. Like, I know something's there. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm going to go looking for it. When I was 12, that's when I first found out about my daughter. And even though I have gone to psychiatrists to try to get myself evaluated, because I was told that apparently my dad's mother was schizophrenic, that kind of set a little bit of a fear in me because that kind of thing is genetic. Immediately the psychiatrists were going, Dakota, you're not schizophrenic, you're too coherent, you're just somebody who had something happen to them. Eventually even they started telling me that weird things started happening to them shortly after hearing my story out, and it just keeps escalating from there. I mean, just yesterday there was a bit of an incident where I was proven right about a pregnancy in the family.
Brilliant. Okay, you can't leave us hanging on being 30 miles away from home at your grandma's house. How do you think you got there?
It was an abduction attempt by the Greys. I remember them coming into the house, physically throwing me over their shoulders, carrying me out of the house, taking me into the ship. Once we were off world, apparently there were these, I remember at least two people that came on board the ship, a man and a woman, who rescued me after the race had already started, stripped me down naked and started getting ready to examine me. I didn't find out later in life that apparently abduction by the Greys is a family trait. The same grandmother that was schizophrenic, I found out just last year that apparently she had hybrid children with Greys. And they told me that apparently there was follow-up abductions on her behalf because there was a failure to thrive in the children and they needed mother's milk. I asked my relatives to elaborate so I didn't just get stuck on that image of my grandma being milked out of something like Mad Max. But of course, my family's twisted sense of humor. And going back to my story, one of the people that saved me was the woman who later identified herself as my wife.
Wow. And she's a Pleiadian, your wife.
I thought so initially, but after talking with Elena more one-on-one, and Elena and Thorhan actually making a couple appearances, bringing her up on hologram, Elena helped identify that she's actually from Sirius B, which explained a lot because there was an incident where I was taken up to go see my in-laws so they could meet their grandchildren finally.
Very interesting. Wow, fascinating. And again, not that we want people who are looking to be part of a galactic environment because they're lonely or they need, but this group is for people who genuinely know, they absolutely know that they have a connection to upstairs, the galactics, that they know that they've had another life off planet, or that they just had this journey to connect with these beautiful beloveds. And now that the monsters, as we call them, have left, there's such a safer open ground for everyone to come together. Chen, did you share a childhood story? Did I do everyone with their childhood story?
I don't really have any childhood stories. Is it okay if I tell a non-childhood?
Of course, yes.
So yeah, this was about 10 years ago. I was I knew an architect was showing me a house that he had worked on, and I had an appointment at the house, and I showed up, and no one was at the front door. I looked inside, and I could see a man talking on his cell phone, walking around the house through the window. I could see through the window, and I just assumed that it was the architect that I was supposed to meet. And I knocked on the door, and but there was no response. And to my surprise, a few minutes later, the architect shows up. He's behind me, walking towards the house, and the door was locked, and he unlocked it. We went in the house, and no one was there. It had been empty. And it was only a few days later that I learned from that architect that he had bought the house, and the previous owner had been found dead and his body decaying inside the house. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting experience, and it made me realize that a lot of times we could be actually seeing into fourth density or whatever and not even realizing it, and it made me wonder all the times that I might have been in the presence of beings from other planes of existence and not even know it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. Again, important to share our stories and experiences so others don't feel so lost and that there are people that don't get them or won't get them. Just let me know if everybody's had a chance to share one or two experiences. Is that everybody? Yeah? Okay. Erin, I'm going to come to you because I know you're on a time crunch here. Erin, can I ask you, for you, how important do you feel a group like this group, the Galactic Dudes, how important is this to you and to other men right now on our planet in 2023?
It's a great question. I have not thought of an answer to that. But the obvious thing that you've already stated is that the more that we talk and tell our crazy, weird stories, the more it's normalized for those who have never been able to tell their crazy, weird stories and feel safe in doing it. And the greater that collective grows, that's going to be a huge momentum and part of our overall disclosure and awakening. So very important.
Very important. How do you feel being part of the Galactic Dudes?
Well, see, I'm not just in the group, so I feel like I very much enjoy being connected to what I call the cool kids of the Galactic disclosure. All of you guys, and it's what's helped me connect all the dots. I tend to have a dot connector. I take in lots and lots of data, but then the real thing is the map making, which shows me how things are all being put together, and getting all these various pieces of information from everybody and various stories has helped me start to put together that soul splitting thing and dealing with the emotional trauma from that and transforming it and having some reference points for, oh, maybe that's what happened, because it feels familiar.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Patrick, can you tell me and the team and the viewers here what you feel about men having a group like this to come to?
Yes, well, I feel it's very important because, as a boy growing up, being different, like not being so, I wouldn't say manly, but being into guys things, football, beer, girls, these kind of things. I was bullied in school because, I was different, and it can make you feel very lonely, and you can maybe take that into your later life and feel a little bit disconnected. And then if you come across spiritual groups or safe environments like this, it can really help also your healing process and see, oh well, I'm not not crazy, or as a man, so it's not so well. It didn't used to be so accepted to be maybe spiritual or more sensitive as a man, like being more in touch with your feminine principle. Of course, now it's different maybe than 20 years ago, but so I think this really helps to to connect to other people, other guys, to talk about things in a safe environment. So definitely important. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned that you felt really different as a kid and you got bullied. Can you explain? Because I know billions of people have felt the same, but can you explain why did you feel different? What do you think it was about you that was different?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I don't know, just being overly sensitive, or maybe even, being able to see and hear things that are maybe not in a normal 3D world, which are not discussed in the locker rooms or in the, in the school playground things, and not being interested in the superficial things about talking about designer clothing or all these kind of things. And so it's like feeling disconnected from the main the main gang, or the main not belonging into, for example, you had a gothic group, and you had a metal group, and you had a whatever sporty lad group, and then you had the boys who were popular with the girls, and so I never felt like, oh well, should I be in a group like that, or I'm just being myself, and so I think that's important. That's maybe also that taught me that I don't need to be part of a group if that's not who you are. And later I found out through for example, other spiritual organizations, that there's other people like me. I mean, in a broader sense, that are sensitive, that are, open to other things, that are not connected on a superficial level, like, oh, we support the same football team or something like that, but having a deeper connection. Yeah.
So really, really important. Thank you. For the viewers, I'd like you to know that the men here in this panel, there's literally a 30-year age range between them. We have some in our 20s, and oh, Aaron's gone. Bye, Aaron. Good to have you, mate. Aaron had to jump off, and Aaron in his 50s, which is age is irrelevant, as we know. Let's collapse in that myth. But for anyone out there, again, that thinks, well, I'm only like 21, I don't know where I go, or we have somebody in their 80s who thinks, I can't be a galactic dude. It's just a name. It's a safe place to drop in and basically rest your soul and share your stories and meet with others. Okay, who would like to talk about what they feel the benefits are having a group like this? And do you guys see it as a support group in some regard?
Yes, I also feel like it's a group that has multi functions. I feel like what we're witnessing in the world right now is a lot of destruction, like destruction of institutions, destruction of beliefs, old beliefs, and I personally prefer to focus on the creation aspect, and I feel like groups like these allow those of us with like minds to come together and begin to create this manifest this new world that we all want. And yeah, that.
Excellent. Joshua, what are your thoughts?
I would say that having groups like this, especially like for me, Galactic Dudes, it is, I'd say it's really good for men to have their own group like this, because we as men do receive a lot of pushback when it comes to spiritual topics. And a lot of times I've seen it is from other men, like, hey, that's not what men do. You're not a real man if you do this. Oh, you're just too girly. But having a group of a bunch of men that do have spiritual activities, spiritual experiences, even extraterrestrial, paranormal, just to be able to talk about it without receiving that pushback, it's therapeutic.
That's a beautiful term of expression again. And it doesn't matter how much a man is in touch with his divine feminine. I hope every man is in touch with his divine feminine, because that is a beautiful aspect of male, female. Same as women, we need to be connected to our divine masculine. There's a balance in all of us, and it's so irrelevant if somebody is, whatever someone's sexual preference. It disturbs my mind how there's this global event, what's your sexual preference? It's got nothing to do with anybody whatsoever. It's between two people, or whatever group extracurricular activities somebody might want to do, but it's just no one's business. And it can't, I feel, play a significant part in the self-discovery of an individual being. You could be asexual, non-sexual, it doesn't matter. So again, for men who have been like Dakota, you're a giant. What are you, 6'7"?
Yes.
And one of the things I love about you is how expressive. You own all of you. You own your giant physique. You own your pain, your journey, to speak out in the way you do at your age, in your early 20s. It's quite extraordinary, you know, and I feel like, you know, like we've got you and we've got Joshua here, two of the youngest, let's say, in terms of chronological years on this planet. You both have such courage to sit, stand, talk, profess, share, you know, in the way that you do. And I admire the two of you, I do, because I think there's so much harshness going on in that age range right now. How do you respond to that?
You're absolutely on the dot. I mean, I kind of relate to what Patrick was just saying. You know, in school, I wasn't interested in all the superficial things. I didn't necessarily care for sports. I mean, I was already 6'5" by the time I got into high school. So naturally, there was a lot of football coaches that were frustrated that I just wasn't interested in. Even though I had medical reasons why it's not that I couldn't play, it would just be a very bad idea. There was still that pressure just because I was bigger than the football team. And I got my start kind of going into the public eye when I was 15, 16 years old. And I honestly hid my age for a while until a local radio DJ outed me. But by then, people were somehow impressed with how much I managed to develop at such an early age. It didn't really matter. A lot of the discrimination, for lack of a better word, I faced, you know, everybody assumes, you know, oh, you're a bigger guy, you must get all the women. Okay, yes, there's been women, but yeah, it should be, you know, something more than that. You know, I don't want to necessarily waste my time on someone unless I know that, you know, they're going to have my back if something goes on. And groups like this, you know, it's a good place to acknowledge that, yeah, you may be crazy, but dealing with this stuff alone, that'll do that to you, you know? But, you know, it is therapeutic. And that's why, you know, with the Bonkers, I try to take, you know, a more humorous approach, because you hit that aspect that brings the walls down, that levels the playing field so everybody feels comfortable.
I agree with you so much. Humor for me is, oh my gosh, it's just everything. It's the level, it levels the field, no matter who you are. Because again, with the programming that we come in with as children, we're always programmed early on that this person's hierarchical, that person you can't be this with. Oh, I've been going on LinkedIn and I don't do any business on there anymore. I throw every image of, you know, extraterrestrial, I throw in videos on what I feel is important on the planet, which is a massive disclosure of every system, not just the extraterrestrials, every system. And it just, and I wrote the other day a little post in LinkedIn saying, stop being afraid to behave for a future boss you might get. Like, quit it, be you. Because LinkedIn, the form of LinkedIn, the formality of LinkedIn, as an example, that's going to go. No one's going to care anymore about how many degrees you have, how much of this, how many, or you've worked for this company, someone's trying to model that company on their new company. None of that matters. We're coming back to the heart, the spirit, the personality, the adding the value, the gifting of our experiences into the field to create a much better world and all its systems. And what do you guys think about that? Patrick?
I feel like something that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, you can.
I feel like that's something that like Dakota, the Ball and Bonkers network, like what he's doing, like all these, like they're creating like a distribution system. And I feel like, you know, with all these old structures that are breaking down, you know, like what's happening in Hollywood right now. I feel there's going to be a decentralization of all all these old powers, and it will give room to independent voices like ours more and more.
Excellent. Patrick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so what I feel, it can be very hard to, feel alone if you're not conforming with what you need to conform with, whether it's by an external something that is put on us, or just be one with the majority. So you have to be strongly grounded, as well as being strongly connected with your higher self. And it helps to be among like-minded people. I mean, yeah, you can be as strong as, I've been strong all my life. I've been an only child. I have to be, but still, it's so nice to meet people like, in this community or in GSIC. And if only for a few days, feel like, well, I can let all this go, and, need to be strong. And, as you, Chen, said, so many things are going on right now in the world, and disclosure, and the train is, it's going the right way. In my country, for example, politics is going the right way. People are resigning, etc. But it's, sometimes you get weary of walking through, through mud, feeling like, okay, I'm doing this alone. And of course, there were a couple of years that they discouraged connecting with other people, and then especially then you have to seek out others, and like a community like this really helps for that.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, excellent. Well, guys, I'm so glad that you were able to join us all together on this roundtable today, and just give a drop of your own experiences that you've had, otherworldly, spiritual, extraterrestrial, and stand proud and public. And again, to share your truths to a point, but also to let other men see and witness that they also have a safe place to come. We don't put up with any crap, of course. We don't have any, knobheads coming in and trying to disrupt and disturb. This is a safe place, just so people know, it's not to come and have a laugh and kick the shit out of people and attack them. We don't accept that at all. Certainly not with Miss Tina Martinez at the helm. Also want people to know that there are many groups that Tina has created. So you can, if you have more interest, you can just leave a comment under the comment section here under this broadcast, and we can take you to Telegram groups that we have. There's groups in Spanish now, groups of French speakers, Spanish speakers. There's movie groups, there's book sharing groups. There's so much in this beautiful community. And just to finish myself, before I go around and get final words from these gentlemen here, gentlemen, they all are all gentle. That's one of the lovely things. I like that word for many reasons, that when I apply it to you guys and I feel my heart, that word to you, it's like you are these gentle men, and that's so lovely. We have the most incredible conference. It's called the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection. It'll be our second year. It's October 20th to 22nd, 2023, Orlando, Florida. It was mind-blowing last year. I can't tell you the 4D energy that was there. We had actual ETs in the audience. We had actual craft outside. So many people took footage of the craft flying around. The speakers were Elena Danan, Alex Collier, Dr. Michael Sala, Tony Rodriguez, Jean-Charles Moyen, and others. And this year, we're having those main speakers again, but Alex Collier will be in the audience, and it will be a vendor sharing off-planet technology, medbed technology. It's called Quantum Wave Therapy. There will be other people in our vendor rooms this year who will be showing you technology that has not been seen before or available to the public. This is what disclosure is: sharing everything, telling everything, coming together, making our own minds up, holding and respecting each other, and moving forward. So thank you guys for joining me here. Dakota, I want to come to you for last words. We'll go Dakota, Patrick, Chen, and we'll finish with Joshua.
I will simply say this: what Danny has organized with all this is absolutely incredible. And honestly, I never thought I'd see an event like this put together. I'm genuinely excited to see what happens, just because I know that there's individuals, and you can go on to one of the latest episodes of Bald and Bonkers where we had the lovely Danny as a guest, and there's voices there. There's people that for some reason when I link up to them, it seems to open Pandora's box and you never know what's going to come out. I mean, the 2020s has shown us anything, it's that nothing's impossible anymore. If you don't necessarily have to take it on alone anymore. Nothing's impossible. Take advantage of the energy that's out there. You're going to be surprised what you're going to see in it just by next year even.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bald and Bonkers. Thank you, darling Dakota.
Yeah, last words. So, well, get your ass to GSIC this year, if you can, work on manifesting it. I know many people that, you're more powerful than you think. You can really manifest if you need to be there. For me, last year, it was life-changing, really. It's no exaggeration. And, don't let anyone limit you. Least of all yourself, make yourself smaller. Now you can do so much more, and especially with the new energies coming into this planet and things that are happening in disclosure, you need to be there really. So get yourself to Orlando.
Can I ask you a quick question, because you were there last year? What was so life-changing for you?
For me, the connection, the 4D energy, as you mentioned, that's almost like a drug. It's like a high, like, oh wow. But meeting so many like-minded people, for me, I'm very up to date with all the speakers, so with all the information they give. So for me, it was more the connection to the community, the feeling of connecting. That's, for me, that was the best.
That's beautiful. It is a disclosure conference, and this year again our speakers will be sharing information never heard before. That is the whole point of having a disclosure conference. So moving to you, Chen.
Well, I have been a writer for many years of so-called fiction, and the way I've always approached my writing is that I just choose to tell about the world as it is, portray the world as it is, not the drip soft disclosure stuff. I just basically show like everything magic, aliens, angels, demons, ghosts. They're all, to me, they're all reality. They're not it's not science fiction. It's not horror, it's not fantasy, it's just reality. And I feel that the actual world that everyone knows is starting to resemble the world that I've been writing about for years. So, and it's really exciting, and I can't wait to see what's in store, what else is in store, and obviously looking forward very much to just again this year.
Excellent, beautiful. Just give me a quick synopsis from last year, Chen. What were your takeaways from the Galactic and Spiritual Informers connection?
Oh, mind-blowing, just mind-blowing. And like basically it's not the big speaking events are all great, but it's just the little things, like the little conversations you strike up with like people who are also in the audience, and just finding common ground, common interests. I did. There was one person which I found very interesting, that I was talking to. He was telling me that he grew up in a town called Paradise in California, and it was later on that I learned that a few interesting things about Paradise, including that there's a community of Alpha Centaurians that lived there, And this gentleman, he had a very interesting, very gentle, a different energy to him. His hair was completely white, very pale skin, blue eyes, and I don't know. John, if you're listening to this and you're not an ET, I apologize. I hope to see you again this year.
So special. You know, let's just go there for a second, because the reality is that Paradise was how the deep state, they use HARP equipment, they use lasers to set fire to trees. You can always see if a tree is a natural fire or a laser, direct energy weapon fire, by the intensity of the internal combustion of the tree. One of the ways the fire brigade figured that out. And Paradise was definitely a beautiful safe haven for our Alpha Centauri and some Pleiadians, and they had their whole town burnt to the ground. And of course there were other people living there that were unaware of this beautiful community, but this community of ETs was definitely there, in aptly called Paradise. So thank you for bringing that up. There were so many ETs, as I mentioned, in the audience and outside in their ships doing a flyby. That was pretty incredible. Thank you, Jushem. All right, Joshua, let's come to you for your final thoughts.
I will say your I guess your physical incarnation here is too short to worry too much about being other people. Focus on being yourself. Embrace the goofy love.
Perfect way to end. Well, you guys, it's been really lovely sitting and hanging with you here on this Friday afternoon. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you and really proud of you and your growth and coming together and being brave and sharing your experiences and inviting other men to join. My name is Danny Henderson. This is my beautiful channel, and it is for everyone. Mi casa, tu casa. Let's all keep sharing and building each other up. Let's keep coming together in the arms of love. And to you guys out there, I send you my love from my heart to yours, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.